The 16th of March 2025 was the equivalent of D-Day for Daniel Ricciardo fans. Let me explain why. That Sunday, 20 cars lined up on the grid at the Australian Grand Prix, and it finally hit me. Daniel was not on the grid. No, he was in the paddock signing t-shirts. Now, if you've watched a video or two on this channel, you'd realize that I may or may not be a hardcore Daniel Ricciardo fan. Point being, a common trait that all Daniel Ricciardo fans share is that we're delusional. In fact, when Red Bull was playing musical chairs earlier this season, I still thought Danny had one more trick up his sleeve. But I was wrong. So rather than taking another dose of copium, I figured I'd host a memorial service for his incredible career in Formula One. Because let's face it, it's over. But let's be glad that it happened. After 257 race starts, he amassed 32 podiums, 8 wins, and beat both of the Red Bull 4-time world champions in equal machinery. This memorial service will essentially follow the chronological events of his career, from his ascent, his peak, and his ultimate downfall. I'll also be sure to include my favorite moment of his career at the end of the video. As per usual, just use the timestamps below to follow along. Also, full disclaimer, I'll keep the glaze to a minimum. Let me know how I went in the comments. Alright, no more rambling, intro over. Let's get into Daniel Ricciardo's remarkable CV. Rightio, so Daniel arguably got his first seat due to his behind-the-scenes grind. For example, at the young drivers testing at the end of the 2010 season in Abu Dhabi, he set a lap time 1.3 seconds faster than Sebastian Vettel's pole time from the previous week. He eventually got subbed into the HRT car midway into the 2011 season, but it wasn't pretty. Like most F1 drivers, Danny's F1 career began in something that I wouldn't consider to be an actual F1 car. FYI, I'm talking about the 0 points in a season type of F1 car. However, after just 11 races that year, Helmut Marko and the Red Bull dynasty figured he deserved a better seat, so he was transferred to Toro Rosso for the 2012 season. He raced here for 2 seasons and absolutely pushed the limits of the tractor he found himself in, scoring points on a number of occasions. Then the stars finally aligned for young Daniel, but at the worst possible time. After Mark Webber dipped from F1, the infamous second Red Bull seat opened up. All it took was a put me in coach, and boom, he was an official Red Bull racing driver for 2014. As I said though, the timing couldn't have been worse. This is because the rocket ship that Sebastian Vettel was driving the past 4 years finally ran out of fuel, paving the way for Mercedes to absolutely ruin the competitive aspect of F1 for the next 8 years.
Ka-chow! What happened? Where are all the other cars?
To make matters worse, Danny absolutely wiped the floor with Seb. Head to head, he beat Vettel 13-5 and scored 238 points to Seb's 167. So yeah, knowing he could have been the World Driver Champion that year is upsetting to say the least. He single-handedly proved that the second Red Bull seat curse was a hoax. His ascent in Formula One didn't stop there though. In his debut season for Red Bull, he won his first Grand Prix in Canada, followed by 2 more wins in Belgium and Hungary. He ended the season 3rd in the drivers' standings, clear of everybody except for Lewis Hamilton and some Monaco-based YouTuber. Okay, so I'd argue that 2015 marks the beginning of Daniel's peak era. I say this because even though the RB11 was a glorified lawnmower with the aerodynamic setup of a shopping trolley and a Renault power unit that had the horsepower of a blender, he still managed to perform. I mean, despite having a winless stint that year in the 4th fastest car, he still got 2 podiums, which was more than the single podium that his teammate Danny Ricciardo achieved. In saying that though, the Torpedo did actually beat him that year, but we're not going to talk about that. Danny Ricciardo dominance would bore fans. Anyhow, 2016 was his year. He scored 8 podiums and placed 3rd again in the World Drivers' Championship, absolutely dominating the rest of the competition. I reckon that him sharing a shoey with Mark Webber that year in Spa signifies the peak of his driver team performance. This is because 2016 marks the year that Red Bull made the executive decision that they no longer cared about Daniel's career trajectory, as Christian Horner was too busy glazing Max Verstappen in interviews.
Max is a born racer. He's the only driver on the grid capable of taking on Lewis Hamilton.
You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Long story short, the team was seemingly inspired by the Ferrari pit wall as they made some of the most diabolical strategy calls I have ever seen. Exhibit A. At the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, on Max's debut for Red Bull, for whatever reason, even though Daniel was leading, they elected to allocate him the less desired 3-stop strategy, which conveniently saw him drop outside of the top 3, spoon-feeding Max the win. Exhibit B. At the 2016 Monaco Grand Prix, Daniel started from pole and was on track to win the race, but then, when Red Bull called him in for his pit stop, nobody was ready, and by the time that they locked in, he'd already lost the lead to Lewis. W strategy. Red Bull is thinking inside the box for real. Exhibit C. At the 2016 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Daniel started P3 with Verstappen in P6. On lap 1, Max lost the plot, dropping back in the field. But not to worry, because for whatever reason, Max once again got the preferential 1-stop strategy, whereas Danny got the sloppy seconds 2-stopper. This resulted in Max finishing ahead of Daniel's 5th in P4. Say what you want, Christian. Flat spot this, optimal strategy that. I know preferential treatment when I see it. Oh, also pause. Before you give me the Michael Massey treatment in the comments for these takes, remember what I said. All Daniel Ricciardo fans are delusional, so cut me some slack. Now, whilst Daniel's final 2 years at Red Bull may not look as good on paper as his 2016 season, he was definitely still at his peak. During these 2 years, out of the 27 races he finished on the podium 11 times. A 40% podium rate is crazy work in the 3rd fastest car, so you gotta hand it to the guy. Plus, on top of this, you might be wondering why he only finished 27 races of the 41 he started. This is because across these 2 years, he had 12 mechanical failures. A statistic I find really unsettling when you realize that Max only had 7, which is about half this amount. Even with the odds against him though, he still managed to beat Max in 2017. But this sort of marks the end of Daniel's prime in Formula 1, which is just unfortunate to say the least, as I'll always believe that had he driven a car that could match his talent, he'd be a World Driver champion. Moreover, if Red Bull's strategy and reliability departments got their shit together, I wouldn't be surprised if he raced alongside Max from 2019 onwards. Right, so looking back on it, I can say pretty confidently that Daniel's move to Renault was the beginning of the end. Like, I'm pretty certain that transitioning from battling Lewis Hamilton for race wins to fighting Grosjean in Q2 took a big toll on Daniel. Simply put, his 2-year stint at Renault was pretty forgettable if you ask me. Sure, he did score 2 podiums and Netflix would have you believe that his smiles per hour skyrocketed, but I call major cap. Like, if he enjoyed it that much, he wouldn't have left after 2 years. Anyhow, then he joined McLaren, and to be honest, now it was obvious that something was wrong, because Lando was clearly the better driver. Like, for example, in 2022, Norris beat Daniel in qualifying 20 of the 22 race weekends, and that says a lot. This caused Daniel to be sick of F1 altogether, because McLaren paid him $15 million to leave the team at the end of 2022. Now, I wouldn't be a true Daniel Ricciardo fan if I didn't mention his canon event at McLaren, which is winning the Italian Grand Prix in 2021. Words could not describe how gassed I was to see my goat back on the top of the podium. I thought we were so back, like I bought all of the Danny Rick merch that I could, and well, I hope I didn't jinx it, because that would go down in history as his last win in Formula 1. Also, forget what I said about Lando Norris. Daniel got a win and he didn't. 1-0, buddy. We did not, and will not be entering the Lando Norris era, Zach. Sorry, but recently it's getting really hard not to dislike Lando.
Not racing very smart.
The lad acts like he didn't fumble the championship last year, and it's all luck-based.
But it's really, it's the way it is with Max. You know, it's crash or don't pass.
That makes 2 Aussie drivers to beat your ass in equal machinery. Humble yourself, G.
Yeah, shut up!
Okay, Lando yap over. Sorry, I've been holding that one in for a while now. But back to Daniel. Once leaving McLaren, that was pretty much the end of his F1 career, as I'd prefer to forget his little stint in the V Cup. I mean, that interview at his last race in Singapore after Red Bull backstabbed him actually hurt to watch. Well, there you have it. That's more or less the remarkable F1 career of Daniel Ricciardo. The only thing left to do now is to reveal my favorite moment in his career. Now, you can call me basic, sue me, but you'd have to be a new level of goofy to say that his performance at the Monaco Grand Prix in 2018 wasn't one of the best of all time. This isn't even a bias glaze. Let me break it down. Daniel was the fastest man in FP1, FP2, and FP3. Then, he was the fastest man in Q1, Q2, and Q3. After starting the race on pole, he led the race comfortably until lap 28. Then he reported a loss of power. This meant that his car was missing out on about 160 horsepower, and he couldn't get into 7th or 8th gear. Yet, somehow he managed to stay in the lead and won the race with a 7-second margin. In doing so, he produced some of the coldest pictures F1 has ever captured, and definitely increased his fan base size by a solid 50%. However, my words won't do this moment justice, so here's a short edit that I made of it.
Ricciardo is sat there waiting. Did he make the call? Did the team make the call? Hamilton now leads after a pit stop that saw Daniel Ricciardo sat stranded waiting for his tyres.
Nothing you can say can make that any better. Just save it.
It's race time in Monaco. It's lights out and away we go.
Perfect start from Ricciardo.
He led FP1, FP2, FP3, Q1, Q2 and Q3 and the race. Today in Monte Carlo, it's redemption day for Daniel Ricciardo. He wins the Monaco Grand Prix and he will celebrate that for a long, long time to come.
Absolutely amazing. I don't know how you did that, Daniel. Incredible. Holy tomorrow. Cheers, boys. Redemption. Thanks for having my back. And for anyone who thought I left, I never left.
Enjoy the butterflies, enjoy being naive, enjoy the nerves, enjoy kind of the process of making a name for yourself and meeting some great people along the way.
Yeah. Like ultimately, is it worth the risk? You know. But.
And if this is it for Daniel Ricciardo, if this is the end after 13 years, 8 wins and 258 races, I just want to say, and I'm sure you want to say thank you to Daniel Ricciardo. Thank you for that smile. Thank you for the shoeies. Thanks for I never left. Thanks for that gorgeous nose of his. Thanks for coming into the paddock on that horse in Austin. Thanks for the Enchante merch. Thanks for the red wine. Thanks for those cowboy boots that he wears sometimes. Thanks for licking the stamp and sending it. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for being a gentleman. And thank you for being a proper great Aussie drongo bloke. Daniel Ricciardo, we love you. If this is it, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I don't want to look back and be kind of sad or bitter about anything. It's everything, I guess, happens for a reason. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that moment and the rest of the video have served as exceptional Daniel Ricciardo propaganda. Whilst it's kind of sad to accept that we'll never see him stand on another F1 podium, I reckon we should just be happy that it happened. Plus, it's not like the guy passed away. He's moved on to bigger and better things, like selling clothes and wine. I don't care. As long as he's smiling, I'm smiling. But that's that. Thank you for tuning into this memorial service. Another thank you to the 650,000 people and counting who watched the last video. Very cool. Oh, and to all my Gymkhana super fanboys, thank you for driving up the engagement on the last video. You sent it to the moon. 10,000 subscribers would not be the same without you. Rage bait is a beautiful thing, for real.
Oh, you leaving? Ah, come on, man.
So let me know which motorsport fanbase that I should piss off next. Also, I've been drowning in uni work for the past few weeks, so I'm sorry about the wait. I hope I lived up to your expectations. That's it for today though. Be sure to check out the Discord and thank you for watching.
Is that real sweat? It's real sweat. I'm a high performance athlete. Athletes sweat. Sweat, baby. Sweat, sweat.